Have you ever typed out a text you already knew you were going to send? Hey, so sorry, can't make it tonight. 16 words. You read them twice before sending, like you're checking a confession for typos. Then you hit send. And the first thing you feel isn't guilt. It's relief. Shoulders drop 2 inches you didn't know were tense. The room sounds different, quieter. But the good kind, easier to breathe in. Guilt always shows up later. Like a text that arrives after the conversation already ended. But that first, honest second, you felt like you just got let out of something. Here's the question I want you to hold on to for the next 5 minutes, because I'm not going to answer it yet. Is that relief? Peace? Or is it just a very well-decorated form of hiding? There's something underneath that question. I'll get there. First, you need to see the whole shape of it. Every time you leave the house, something quiet happens. You translate. The version of you that exists in your head, intense, particular, a little too much for small talk, gets converted into something easier to swallow. I'm good. Same old. A smile that's accurate enough to pass. That's not lying. That's just the toll for walking outside. So you come home, door shut, and you take a breath. That feels like the first real one all day. No translating in that silence. Just the raw file. No subtitles. No edits for public consumption. And the part of you the world keeps telling you to work on. In that room, you're not fixing it. You're just finally letting it exist, without an audience. There's a line that gets passed around constantly, credited to Carl Jung. And however close it is to his exact wording, the idea is unmistakably his. Loneliness was never really about how many people are in the room. It's about not being able to say the one thing that actually matters, to even a single person in it. That's not poetry. That's basically a clinical description of what you've been doing. Because here's what's strange. People who do this aren't insecure. Researchers who study this pattern in adults found something almost funny. These are often people with a genuinely positive view of themselves. They're not afraid they're worthless. They just learned, somewhere back there, that other people were the unreliable variable. So the self became the one room with no surprises in it. That's not a character flaw. That's a perfectly reasonable adaptation to a world that, at some point, taught you being seen could cost you something. I'll be honest with you. I've sent that exact text. Can't make it tonight. Felt that exact relief. Walked around my apartment for an hour, feeling like I'd won something. It took me embarrassingly long to ask myself, what exactly I thought I'd won. Now let's get a little sharp. Classy, but sharp. Look at what actually gets rewarded out there. Not honesty, the performance of honesty. Not connection, the aesthetic of it. A perfectly lit table of people laughing on cue for a camera. Captioned, grateful for these humans. Posted 40 minutes after the dinner ended, in silence on someone's phone. Preceding people aren't fake. Most of them are just as tired as you are. They just picked a different costume. Constant availability instead of constant distance. So when you watch the noise from a safe distance, that's not contempt for people. That's exhaustion with the show. You're not better than anyone in that room. You're just done performing in it. Here's where it actually flips. This is the part that changes everything I just told you. There's a separate finding, different researchers, different study, and it's the one that matters more than the first. They found 2 kinds of people who spend time alone. Not introverts versus extroverts. That's not the line. The real line is this: chosen solitude versus trapped solitude. People who walk into the quiet room because they want to, and people who walk into it because the door behind them feels less safe than the room itself. Same behavior, completely different result. The first group reports lower loneliness, more peace, real restoration. The second group gets none of that. They just get really convincing at calling it peace. So everything we just talked about isn't your identity. It's just where you started. The real question was never, are you someone who likes being alone? It's this: which one of those 2 rooms are you actually standing in? Right now, tonight. Here's the part nobody tells you, and it's probably the real reason this has been so hard to shake. At some point, alone stopped being just a state you were in. It became who you are. Say, I'm just someone who prefers being alone enough times. And it stops being a description. It becomes an identity. And once something becomes identity, the brain does something very specific. It protects it. Not because it's good for you, because changing it would mean changing who you think you are. The brain isn't loyal to your happiness. It's loyal to your sense of self. Even when that self was built around a locked door. That's not a flaw in you. That's just how identity works. In anyone. About anything. But it does mean the decision is yours. Not your brain's default setting. Not whatever story protected you years ago. Back when it actually needed to. Jung put something like this in writing once. And it still holds up. The one who keeps looking outward stays asleep. The one who finally looks inward wakes up. So here's where I leave you. Gently. No instructions. No 5-step plan. That room you built is allowed to still be sacred. You don't have to dismantle it tonight. Or ever, if it's genuinely serving you. But it might be worth asking, just once. Honestly, is this still serving me? Or is this just the one identity I never got around to questioning? Either answer is fine. Truly, the relief is still yours. Either way, you just finally get to decide what it actually means.